Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
It is Sunday, April 7th, 6:26 p.m., and the Detroit Red Wings are in a playoff spot.
Which might not be true by the end of the episode.
That's right, because Washington is already up 1-0 on Ottawa. Ottawa thanks for nothing so far, but we are a week into April, and the Red Wings are in a playoff spot. I know recently we've been saying, hey, March really sucked, and we've seen some pretty terrible hockey and a lot of stuff that even in the context of it's good to be here with the span of the whole season in mind, that's really hard to watch, but still keep the span of the whole season and our expectations in mind and, appreciate the fact that the Red Wings are in a playoff spot. But we were saying that almost through gritted teeth. Like, it was hard to do, but we knew the light was not necessarily at the end of the tunnel because God knows no one knows what's going to happen here and Detroit might still miss it. But the reality is Detroit's in a playoff spot a week into April, and that is a massive success for the team no matter what way you cut it.
Yep, pack it in. We're done here, folks. Stop the count. Stop the count right now.
That actually might be the only way we can get a final decision on this because everyone is – I'm looking at these records and everyone is just falling backwards intentionally to try to not make these playoffs.
It's crazy. I can't believe Pittsburgh has re-entered the race. I mean, Sidney Crosby is dragging the corpse of the Pittsburgh Penguins into this race. It's just wild.
How do you trade Jake Guentzel, who's doing well with the Carolina Hurricanes, and get better?
There's a possibility Pittsburgh could play Carolina and Jake Guentzel in the first round.
My favorite part of this Eastern Conference playoff race is those last two spots are going to be occupied by such absolute mouth breathers. But one of them is going to upset somebody because hockey doesn't make sense.
It's the meme of like the three dragons and two of them look really tough and one of them is just like derpy with his tongue sticking out. That is whatever this wild card spot is.
Tristan Jarry is going to get hot for the first time in his playoff career. Crosby's going to go supernova and they're going to take out whoever they play. And everybody goes, oh, maybe the playoff race wasn't that bad, completely forgetting how bad it actually was.
But that's the beauty of this. Is it hilarious that the vibes around Detroit being a competitive playoff contender at this point in the season, are they way different than what we expected? Yeah. But can Detroit get in and be one of those teams that does something absolutely wild because hockey is random and crazy like that? Yeah, that's the fun of this. Anything beyond making the playoffs, that's just gravy. That's just cherry on top.
Yeah, the expectation, if the Red Wings get in, are probably to lose 4 games convincingly, and everything beyond that is a bonus. And because it's hockey, it's very possible.
What did Daryl Sutter say last year? It'll be a waste of 7 days or something like that.
Not for us. I promise you we'll have a blast even if it's just 4 games. And the fact that Detroit at this point in the season controls their destiny, and we are back into saying this is the biggest game of the season so far. We're saying that about Tuesday against Washington, and then we're probably going to have to say it again Thursday against Pittsburgh. And then depending on how things go, the back-to-back against Montreal, who's not even close to being relevant, we might be saying it again. That's a win. So, it's a nice sunny day. It's April. We're talking about the Red Wings maybe making the playoffs. We're not doing a prospect profile today. We're not going to complain. Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, folks. Here to talk to you about all things Detroit Red Wings hockey, the world of the NHL, and this bizarro playoff race. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, we're going to be talking about Detroit's 2 games since the last time we spoke, a disappointing 4-3 loss against the New York Rangers, and then the win today against the Buffalo Sabres, which happened entirely in the first period, pretty much. We're going to be talking about storylines from those games, Lucas Raymond, his goal today, Patrick Kane, Larkin, Lyon's performance, and before that, how the Red Wings fared against the Rangers, the mistakes that cost them those games, how I jinxed Perron, apparently. I have to stop talking about people on this show. It is a guarantee that they're going to suck the next game.
You know who I'm a big fan of and we should dedicate some time to today? Alex Ovechkin.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a bunch of Ovechkin. And then after that, maybe more Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just for those 2 games. Yeah.
You know what? This feels like a good time to do a career retrospective on Alex Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby.
I literally think Sidney Crosby is immune to the reverse jinx.
He'll just grind through it. Anyhow, We'll be talking about the playoff picture, how Detroit controls their destiny, what's coming up for them, and everyone who's in this race, which is, even though the way this is happening is kind of laughable, the NHL has to be loving how many teams are in this. We're going to be talking about how the young guns have been performing. Simon Edvinsson's been trusted a lot more by the Red Wings ever since he's been called up, and you can see where his place is on this team and maybe where it should have been. We'll be talking about Marco Kasper versus Austin Czarnik versus, any others who could potentially step in that center spot. Some notes about Axel, Sandin, Pellikka, Alex Lyon, and then some NHL news with line brawls. Evan's favorite topic, violence.
That happened when we were doing the Patreon exclusive last episode.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it was real. I thought it was like a highlight from like months or maybe even years ago. I didn't think it was real. I was like, there's no way this is happening right now while we're doing this episode.
I can't believe you didn't make us like redo the episode right then and there so you could have talked about it. But we should have. We should have. We'll talk about it today and we'll get into some other content before overtime. Before all that, I want to let you know that this podcast is primarily supported by our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/wingedwheel podcast. If you want to join the so-called Dub Club, as our friend Steve Dangle dubbed it. You get access to some great benefits like automatically being entered into all of our giveaways. For example, we're giving away 2 tickets to every Red Wings home game, the vast majority going directly to our Patreon supporters. Also, you get access to our Patreon exclusive Discord. And as Evan mentioned, we record a bonus overtime episode after every main show. It's a great time. We let loose, have fun, talk about hockey, talk about pretty much nothing aimlessly, but it's a good time between the three of us. So again, patreon.com/wingedwheel podcast. If you want to support the show, it really does mean the world to us. Okay, so 2 games, and Detroit went 1-1. Just straight up 2 points, regulation loss, regulation win. And we've been talking quite a bit about Detroit's upcoming schedule. As we went through March and said, okay, they lost all those games, and by the time they pulled out of it, they had a lot of tough ones. They had Washington, they had Carolina, they had Florida, they had Tampa Bay. And it's not like they lost all of those. They actually had some really good results at certain points. But then the Rangers, to me, that was one where you finally get out of your road trip, you're back at home, but you're playing arguably the league best or among the league best New York Rangers. And that's a tough team because they don't give you margin. They don't give you the opportunity to make mistakes. They don't give you the luxury of having a decent game, but not a great game. And I feel like that's what happened with the loss to the Rangers. I don't think Detroit played bad. I just think they had bad enough mistakes at the wrong moments, and it cost Detroit.
Well, I appreciate the Red Wings' thought process of rather than slowly grinding out a game to eventually just lose 1-0 or 2-1, that the strategy in the first period was, let's just pass the puck directly to the Rangers, get it out of the way, and then, have that comeback mentality the rest of the game.
There was a long time ago, it was like the waning years of Jonathan Ericsson. And for those of you who have been listening for a long time, Jonathan Ericsson's my player where, I know he was a nice guy. I know he was loved in the room. It drove me insane every single game he played for the Red Wings. And anytime the Red Wings re-signed him, I pulled hair out. I just did not understand it. He had that flash in the pan where he played with Lidstrom when he came on the scene, and then after that, it was just nothing. And Jonathan Ericsson passed the puck to a defender, or an opposing player, I should say, and they walked in and scored. It was a straight tape-to-tape pass. And it was just so ridiculous that I got up and left the room. I was like, I don't even know what to say about this. And the Austin Czarnik turnaround pass to Will Cooley, who was like, okay, walked in, fired it home. And it was one of those pucks where it just hit that back mesh of the bottom post. And all you heard was thunk. I was like, I don't even know what to say about this. That was.
Seems like it brought up some past trauma.
Yeah. It was so bad, it was funny.
Ryan's triggers, giveaways.
Yes, yeah. Coaches love me.
You picked the wrong team to cover, my friend.
Every day. I shouldn't say every day, but for a lot of days of the last 9 years, I thought, wow, a lot of this grinds my gears, let me tell you. But that was, not to beat up on Austin Czarnik. The guy's been called up to do a job that's really shouldn't be done by an Austin Czarnik type. This is Glendening and Helm in the top 6 in their later years with the Red Wings type thing. It's not his fault, but that giveaway was that's the kind of late season giveaway that you can't do.
Well, the pass was so crisp, it got him a promotion to the second line.
Which we'll get into, but that was, can't be doing that. Anyhow, the Rangers scored. Thankfully, Andrew Copp got it back right after. Veleno actually did a good job down low to get that puck in front, and Andrew Copp scored his 13th of the season to tie the game. And then Barclay Goodrow, who was... Did you see the refs give an extra minor to Robbie Fabry when him and Goodrow fought? That was a fight. And really, it was Goodrow had a hit on, I think, Gostisbehere or something. And Fabry went in. He didn't like the hit. He gave Fabry the extra minor, but they both kind of just went at it at the same time. And I was like, that's a decision. Sure. There was other decisions in that game that really annoyed me. Anyhow, Barclay Goodrow scoring 2 goals that game. Those were his 3rd and 4th goals of the season for him. I feel like that happens to the Red Wings all the time, and it's so annoying. Player's first hat trick, his first goal in 100 million games. It's just always against Detroit.
They just heard the last name Goodrow and game planned for the wrong one, and it threw him right off.
I don't think the other one's doing much this season anyhow.
No, exactly, but they're such different players. The game plan would not be the same.
Detroit went into the second period down 2-1 and then actually managed to take the lead at some point. JT Compher scored from Jeff Petry, and it was a nice play by Jeff Petry in the offensive zone. He, did a lot of good work, brought the puck up and around, and got the puck to JT Compher. And it was an important goal for Detroit to score because, if you go down 3-1 against the New York Rangers, you're not exactly poised to get back, especially with Jonathan Quick playing how he has been. But instead, you just bank the puck off JT Compher. It goes in. Great for Jeff Petry. And then Dylan Larkin scores his 30th of the season on the power play to go up 3-2. That was from Perron and Gostisbehere. And that made 3 straight 30-goal seasons for Dylan Larkin. I would honestly say it was he picked up the rebound and scored from the left side, pretty much parallel to the red line. But Dylan Larkin's goal scoring prowess is probably his most underappreciated aspect of his game. He is a uniquely talented finisher that people don't really realize.
His big strength as a goal scorer is no limitations. He can score from anywhere on the ice, any type of way you want. Rebounds, one-timers, off the rush, bad angle, whatever it might be. And I wouldn't say he's elite at any one of those things, but he's so puck dominant and he plays such a big role in so many minutes that when you can score from anywhere, you're going to get the puck in scoring positions a ton. Because if everything's a scoring position to you and you always have the puck, you're always a threat.
And it's kind of like he'll score a goal, score his goal. He'll score a coach's favorite kind of goal, which is those grindy, dirty areas, but he'll show up everywhere. It's not elite. You're right. He's not like a superstar goal scorer, but he's a very high end one. And for a team that doesn't have a lot of them, that's crucial. So the Red Wings, actually, I want to talk about this before we talk about how the game ended. There was a play in front at some point in the first period with about 7:25 left where Lucas Raymond took a cross-check right to the ribs from Lindgren. And you might look at that and say, Raymond sold it with how he jumped forward. But then you see the cross-check and how direct it was. You're like, no, I actually understand. That one had to have stung. If you're the kind of player who wears maybe shorter shoulder pads that don't go down your torso as much, everyone will have that exposed bit of rib, especially if your pants don't come up. He got him right in there. And to me, I'm like, tough play in front. You don't want to see that called all the time. That's just NHL hockey, but some of them are egregious, and I thought that has to be a penalty. Detroit was already on a 5-on-4, and they didn't give it to him.
That's why
you answered your own question.
Yeah. Well,
or solved your own mystery.
A lot of mysteries with refereeing lately. Jeff Petry got called for, I think, a less egregious cross-check. One that was like one of those cross-check shoves. The standard was set. If you don't want to call it because it's the team's on the power play, that's fine. I understand as a referee you have to make that decision.
Is that fine?
Well, that's the differentiator here.
But then you have to keep that standard. It's not actually fine, but if you keep the standard, then that's fine. But they immediately went back on the standard. And Petry got, a call on a lighter play right after that. And you're like, what? In the words of Bradley Tiberius Crisco, what are we doing here?
Everybody knows you're not allowed 5-on-3s in important games.
It's just so stupid.
Important game for the Red Wings.
Yeah.
The Rangers why are we here right now?
Yeah, why are these guys trying so hard? They know it's April, right? Didn't they clinch their spot a week ago like the rest of us?
Yeah.
Why are Larkin and Raymond playing? Aren't they supposed to be resting?
But no, it's stupid and it's game management, but that is the reason. I would bet my house on it. Team's already shorthanded. And like you said, those cross checks get let go all the time. All the time. They shouldn't, but they do. So was I surprised on the non-call there? No. Was I expecting a non-call there given the power play? Absolutely. I would have predicted that. And then 5-on-5, the same-ish play happens and they call it. Nobody's surprised. Yeah. Is it awful? Yeah. Are they going to be reprimanded for it? No, because this is the NHL standard by all of them.
The way the Red Wings lost this game, there was a late power play goal by the New York Rangers. Chris Kreider scored at about halfway through the third period, and it was an unnecessary high sticking penalty on David Perron. And that's the thing, like, that's what I was joking about to start the episode. I had a lot of good things to say about Perron last episode because obviously we know where his game has been at this year. He's fallen off with his skating, and people are starting to question why he's maybe had the minutes he's had on the power play and in the top six. And I understand that. We've talked a lot about it, and we've said you only bring him back at the right number if you bring him back. But I thought, like, those are the aspects of his game that I think are important to highlight so people understand why the team values him so much. And I don't regret anything I said. But obviously it was going to happen where he went out, took a dumb offensive zone penalty, which is his, like, he loves to do that.
That's his bread and butter.
Oh, God. And then it was just like, I'm sorry, that between that and the dead giveaway by Czarnik, like, that cost the Red Wings the game. They played a good game. Alex Lyon did well in net, relatively speaking. Like, he did enough where you should have been able to win the game based on how your offense was producing. But though, stupid me for opening my mouth, that's what cost him.
We've talked about it time and time again. The difference between great teams and good teams is the great teams don't make those mistakes.
So, like, if this game happens mid-season, you're like, hey, respectable effort against the league-leading New York Rangers, or they're up there. You know, you play an altogether good game. You can take those kind of moral victories. The unfortunate part is when you're in the, hashtag just win part of the season.
No moral victories right now.
It's results. If you play an ugly, crappy game and for 40 minutes you get dominated, and, you don't control the puck, you don't control the zone, but you win 3-1, that is a better result. Huh. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Random example. That is a better result than, that's what matters more. So, yeah, you look at this game, you're like, I appreciate that effort from the Red Wings. In the end, if you want to be making the playoffs, you have to be minimizing those mistakes. And that, to me, was the Red Wings played well enough to walk away with more than 0 points there, in my mind. So that was a missed opportunity. Anyhow, good on the Red Wings for coming out hot against Buffalo, because that was a crucial win. The matinee Red Wings, man. The off-time Red Wings, they are fantastic. But the Red Wings came out against the Buffalo Sabres, and it started with Lucas Raymond, but they were electric in the first period, and that is all it took.
Yeah, finally some motivation to start a game. Their Achilles heel for a bulk of the season. Hey, it only took till April 7th. So,
You'll take it on April 7th.
Eventually you get there, and no surprise who was leading the charge in the first period. Raymond, Kane, Larkin. Yeah, exactly who you would predict if I told you they were going to come out guns blazing and put up a early 3 spot, and all high skill goals, every one of them. I think I even sent out a tweet after the third one going, I don't understand what's happening right now, but I like it. It was the last part of the game I liked, but to that point, it was phenomenal.
It's all that matters. Lucas Raymond's goal was excellent. Like, really, you're right, really high skill goal. His moves in the neutral zone to kind of dance around Buffalo players. We talked about it on his empty net goals. Like, his first steps are very deceptive and quick. Intercepts the puck, dances around the defender, and then instead of trying to split 3 guys, just fires it home past Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, which is a top-tier name in the NHL. And then Patrick Kane just, like, splits the D, walks in, beats Pekka Luukkonen himself. And that was within the first 5 minutes of the game.
It's nice to see the team actually come out with a sense of urgency and, some execution for once. It always feels like the Red Wings are trailing or having late starts to games or late starts to periods.
And what they did was they capitalized on other teams' errors. Like, if you're saying, oh, but Buffalo's a beatable team, What have we seen lately other than strength of schedule does not matter, apparently, for all of these wild card potential teams? It doesn't matter who you're playing. If you can capitalize on those errors, that's how the Red Wings have managed to stay in this race, at least somewhat, because, they've been able to pull out results like this from time to time. And then also, it's not even just the execution, the energy. Joe Veleno fought Bowen Byram because he didn't like a hit that he made, and Jeff Petry fought Dylan Cousins later in the first period. It was a hyped up game for the LCA crowd.
It's so refreshing to see. Neither of those fights were great. At least Veleno was throwing some. But we've been begging for this years. The whole rebuild. The give a damn meter has always been so low with this team. And even through the month of March, it seemed like, despite it being in the middle of a playoff race, it was low. So I will take anything I can get when I see stuff like that.
You're right. The month of March, it was low, but this season we have been seeing a lot. That give a damn meter has been higher than we've ever seen. And then on the power play, Detroit made it 3-0. It was a Larkin shot that came from a nice play that had Raymond and Perron involved, and that made it 3-0 Detroit. It ended up being 3-1 at the end of the first period when Tage, the rat in the Tage against the machine scored, made it 3-1. But ultimately, that's how the game ended. But it was an interesting path to get to that end. And I think you were saying, Brad, pre-show, the Red Wings largely have Alex Lyon to thank for that.
Yeah, the 3-1 first period, Lyon didn't need to be spectacular. The Red Wings were all over him. He made a couple key saves, and we appreciate him for that because I think the 2 minutes before the Thompson goal, the Red Wings had just actually finished killing off another penalty before they decided to take another penalty that led to the Thompson power play goal. And a lot of moral victories, a lot of actual victories coming out of that first period. And then you ever watch a game and you disassociate for a while and you realize half a period has passed and you're not really sure what happened? That was me watching the second period. Listless, lifeless. Buffalo was pressing, but even they weren't doing a ton. The Red Wings were doing nothing. Lyon had to make some key saves and he made them, and then it just got worse in the third period. But Lyon got even better, especially in the last few minutes where the Red Wings got very scrambly, and Lyon made a couple 5-star saves. And, obviously Raymond, Kane, Larkin, the stars of the first period, but Lyon was the reason they won that game.
And I mean, the big difference between Detroit getting some results and almost none in March was that their goalies disappeared at the same time as they got hurt and they got sick and everyone wasn't executing. So they had games like this in terms of the 5 players in front of Lyon in March, and they got caved because Lyon or Reimer were just bad that game. But this is the difference maker, and Buffalo is not the Rangers, and so you can actually get away with that, and that's what they did. So, in the spirit of just win, you'll take it. It works. The Red Wings right now aren't playing like a 600 points percentage team or on that insane tear they were on in January and February, but I also don't think they're playing like they were in March either. This is in terms of on ice performance, 500 give or take each game. They're about a 500 points percentage team right now. That's how they're playing, and you'll get some results like that. And your goalie ultimately is going to be what moves the needle for you. So, whatever they've done to get Lyon between rest and whatever else to get back to that spot, that's going to be clutch if they're going to get this done.
Well, he's got 5 games left, so hopefully he wrote his last heater longer than that.
Yeah.
So hopefully this one is just as long.
He has to be the guy for the Capitals and then the Penguins on Tuesday and Thursday respectively.
He's playing every game way out. I know the last 2 games are back-to-back against Montreal. Unless he gets 40 or 50 in that first game, I'm putting him right back out there for the second game.
You have to, unless they have clinched. That's the only way you don't.
1,000%. We've seen time and time again, despite a few good starts, you can't trust Reimer. You just can't.
No.
And
you're essentially asking to get lucky.
You put him in against Toronto. He is a former
right.
league.
Yeah. He did do well against Toronto when we witnessed that in person.
Exactly.
And then you called him, what was it, the world's best beer league goalie because it was the weirdest saves in the world, but they stayed out?
I have no idea how that he does the things he does.
I'm sure with Austin Matthews hunting 70, that would go very well.
We'll put Justin Hall out there too then.
To play goalie?
Maybe.
Couldn't hurt.
At least they'd be paying him to do something. Max pointed this out, and he also had it in his post-game article. Who was out there at the end? Lucas Raymond, Dylan Larkin, JT Compher, Mo Seider, Simon Edvinsson. I know that sounds like you're like, yeah, you just named some of Detroit's best players, especially in that late situation where Buffalo had their goalie pulled. Simon Edvinsson is the big one there. Like, he is being trusted. I'm not going to do the whole why wasn't he up all year. Simon Edvinsson has already played to the point where he's being trusted in key late game situations. He's being trusted on the penalty kill. He's being trusted with big minutes. He's out there with Mo Seider. That's huge. You talk about moral victories. It doesn't matter what happens here. That is massive.
He's a top 3 defenseman on this team right now, full stop. Obviously, Mo Seider is the number 1. You could make it, with Wallman not playing, obviously.
Yeah, he's not 100%.
Yeah,
so.
Sherratt has his moments, but beyond that, yeah, this is Edvinsson's moment.
Yeah.
Second pair is his. He's out there for the big minutes. He's out there for the big moments. He's out there on the penalty kill. And he's done nothing to show that these are poor decisions. That all he's doing is justifying it over and over again. And low-key, not a insignificant thing that Raymond was out there.
No.
I know he's been in those situations before, but I don't think that gets appreciated enough.
No. And that's exactly it. Like, we talk about Raymond already being a star and having an even higher ceiling than that. That's not just putting up points and scoring goals. That's, all situations. And what did the team want more from Raymond last year? It wasn't, if you heard Derek Lalonde or Steve Yzerman talk about what Raymond wasn't doing consistently last year, it wasn't so much the production. They knew that would come. They wanted him to get better at every end of the ice in these small areas in the battles, and that's what Raymond has worked on. And that kind of hard work begets the production. He did, he has improved his shot, he has improved his ability to find space and all that too, but your best players need to be your best players. If your best players can't be trusted in the biggest moments in the game, then you're not a good team. So you want to see what it means for a bad team to slowly morph into a good one. These are the telltale signs. Hard-hitting analysis. Your best players are playing big moments. But honestly, that's what we've been missing for the Red Wings for a long time.
Good hockey players become even gooder hockey players.
Well, the Red Wings used to send out Glendening, Helm, Rasmussen, Ernie in the final. They basically play them almost 60% of the final period, it felt like.
Does anyone else flinch a little bit when you hear it? I haven't heard Adam Ernie's name.
I can't be hurt anymore.
No, because that line existed for the Red Wings today for most of the game in a shutdown role, and they got absolutely caved. So I don't even know if we've reached the point of joking about PTSD, because it's still kind of happening. At least in the final minute of the game, they're getting it right.
It's all that matters. You want to know why? Just win. And that they did. They won. It put them in, as of right now, the time of recording, in a playoff spot, and it kept them in the position to control their own destiny. We are going to talk about the playoff race in just a moment, but first we're going to take a quick break to let you know that this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast is proudly brought to you by Labatt Blue Light. Created in 1983, this premium light Canadian Pilsner is a delicately balanced beer brewed with Cascade hops and a blend of malt. It's fresh, crisp, and brewed to the highest quality standards. There's a little bit of Canadian kindness in every sip of Labatt Blue Light. How did it get in there? They're Canadian. That's how. You can spread the love yourself by sharing a Labatt. And when you do share a Labatt, you're not just sharing a beer. You're sharing an experience that'll pair with anything from hockey to a hoedown. So next time you're watching a hockey with your buds, be sure to share a Labatt, because while you might not all root for the same team, although we on this podcast do hope you're rooting for the Red Wings, you can all enjoy a Labatt Blue Light. We honestly love going to games in Detroit and seeing Labatt being the beer that fans clamor for all over the arena. It's a reliable beer and great to have in your hand when celebrating a goal. So head to the link in the description of this episode or the one you see on your screen to find Labatt in stores near you today. You must be 21 or older, and as always, enjoy responsibly. So we just did a little count, and in Detroit's last 18 games, they've won 5 of them.
Oh my.
And they have reclaimed a playoff spot. I don't want to say Detroit needs good luck down this next stretch of their last 5 games, because they have to have used it all up. Shame on every other team around them for not absolutely stepping on them and just completely putting them out of the picture. That you can't run a simulation enough times to replicate that. You cannot bank on that ever happening again. If ever in a late season stretch for playoffs, a team wins 5 of 18, just the consensus, almost mathematical certainty is that they are going to be out of it. But because everyone else around them has just sucked in their own special little way for an extended period of time, Detroit is on April 7th in a playoff spot before the end of the Washington-Ottawa game. A quick overview. The wild card positions right now, Tampa Bay, they've clinched a playoff spot, 93 points. They're not in the picture. They're in the first wild card spot. The Detroit Red Wings currently hold the second wild card spot, 84 points. They have 5 games left. They've played 77. So they have their max points is 94 and their max regulation wins is 32. They have 27 right now. The Pittsburgh Penguins are 1 point behind. They have 83 points in 77 games. Their max is 93 points, but they have 4 more regulation wins than the Red Wings. So they have that tiebreaker, and it looks like they'll hold that. The Philadelphia Flyers have played 1 more game than the Detroit Red Wings. They also have 83 points. They have 4 games left. Their max is 91, and they have 28 regulation wins, so 1 more than Detroit. The Washington Capitals have 6 games remaining. We don't know the end of the Washington-Ottawa game. Maybe by the end of this podcast we'll know. But for now, for the sake of this, let's say they have 6 games remaining. Their max points is 94, so same as Detroit's. They have 1 more regulation win, so that one's going to be tight. The regulation win is the first tiebreaker, by the way. And that Buffalo, in all practicalities, out of the picture. Their max points is 87. If that number gets it done, I don't want to say anything's impossible at this point, but obviously. And then the New York Islanders, they're in this mix as well. They're currently in the 3rd Metro Division seed. They have the same amount of games played as Detroit, 77. They have 1 more point, 85, and they have 26 regulation wins. So Detroit actually has 1 more regulation win than them. The Islanders, their max points is 95. Why that's relevant is because every team but Detroit is fighting for both the 2nd wildcard spot and the 3rd Metro seed. Detroit can only have the wildcard spot. They can't go into those Metro Division seeds. So, if the Islanders get pushed out and another team's up there, that's actually more advantageous for Detroit in terms of tiebreaker. But no matter what happens, Detroit controls their destiny because through all of this, even though, let's say, Washington can get points in hand on them, Detroit plays Washington and they play Pittsburgh. So they do control their own destiny. If they win out, which is a big ask, they're in. But you're that close, that tight with 5 games left. That is like Gary Bettman's wet dream.
Yeah, the fact that they have essentially 2 4-point games against the teams they are directly competing with for that final playoff spot, man, this week is crazy. This is it.
Yeah. We are in the season again of this next game is the most important one of the season, and we have guaranteed 2 of them on the schedule. Like the moment the Washington game is done, no matter the result, the Pittsburgh game then becomes the next most important game of the season. And here's the thing, like I talked about those max points. What have these teams demonstrated other than they're not going to win out? The only team who I think the team in the strongest position right now based on how they're playing is Pittsburgh, and that's because Sidney Crosby just refuses to die. He refuses to get older. He refuses to age. He's like the opposite of Brad. The guy's only getting stronger and better at hockey, apparently. And they're 6-2-2 in their last 10. Like that's the only team. Although the Islanders are still technically 6-4 in their last 10. They've done enough to get in there. But, the Red Wings 4-4-2, the Flyers 2-5-3. How do you have Torts go out there, give that impassioned speech about what it means to play for Philly and like seize the moment and don't be, scared that you're here and just earn it, and then you go and get beat by Columbus. Like that is like the opposite of the speech Torts gave.
Have you looked at the Flyers roster?
It is a surprise. If people thought it was a surprise that the Red Wings are here, the Philadelphia Flyers are a massive surprise.
And that's with Travis Konechny going career highs and everything this year. You look at the last 10 and the streaks every team's on right now. I can't actually believe what this race is. Like Pittsburgh got lukewarm since the trade deadline and rocketed up the standings. They were out of it. They were dead in the water. I think they were 8 points out, and someone did the math. The most points out at the same point in the year anybody's ever been in the salary cap era and made it was 5. And they were in a playoff spot before the Red Wings played today. It's crazy. I feel like I need to repeat this every episode until the end of the season. And I described this playoff race last episode as this is the tortoise and the hare, except the hare's dead. And so is the tortoise. And then a Penguin comes out of nowhere and wins the race.
Just waddles past.
Yeah,
their
literally
corpses.
waddles.
Can you imagine Buffalo won today? That would put them at 81 points. It would put them at it would be, it's not impossible range.
I just want this to be over. It's so fun, but it's not.
It's bizarre.
I'm so angry at this right now because I have been so fired up for a Red Wings playoff chase in so long, and it's actually here, and it's so entertaining, and yet the way we got here, I hate it so much.
We asked for a Red Wings playoff race, and the world's biggest monkey paw curled. Like, this was the hockey god saying, this is literally the only way we can make this happen, so enjoy it or don't.
And how many of these games, and I'm not just talking Red Wings games, I'm talking Philly, Washington, the Islanders, have they been playing Columbus, Chicago, Buffalo? Like, they've not been playing powerhouses nonstop.
They lost twice to Arizona in a week, Detroit.
Philly got pumped by Columbus. Pumped. Like, this race is a joke. None of these teams deserve to make the playoffs.
You know what we need? More teams to make the playoffs.
we talked
Could you
about it last
imagine
episode.
a 4-team play-in between Pittsburgh, Detroit, the Islanders, and like Washington right now?
New Jersey sneaks in and they make it somehow.
It would be junior hockey. There'd be so many mistakes. Every game would be like 7-4, and we'd all be sitting here going, that was the greatest hockey game I ever watched.
This is exactly like the Simpsons episode where Lisa thinks she's got like the male genes of intelligence on the Simpsons side, and all the male Simpsons are out front on the lawn with pots on their head running into each other. That's what it would be like.
I've embraced it, man. We've been saying just win. This is just win embodied. Is it good hockey? No. Is it competitive? Also no. Is it thrilling? Somehow no. But is it entertaining? Kind of. And I'll hang on to that, man. Look, I'm telling you, the storylines for this offseason, we talk a lot about it. The storylines for this offseason, they're written. We know what's to come for the Red Wings. And it's not like that we pre-plan our content. We know what's going to be relevant. What are they going to do with their contracts? Raymond and Seider, what are they going to do with any potential buyouts? Is Copp going to be bought out? Is Hall going to be bought out? Are they going to make a trade? Like, those things, nothing that happens, whether they make the playoffs or don't, none of that's going to change. So we want this because it's not going to affect anything in the future one way or another. No one's expecting Detroit to be a cup competitor. This is just like, you're in the mix. This is why you want to be a good team to make it. Are they falling ass backwards into this? Kind of, yeah, you hope. But if that's the path in, then you take it and embrace it. Anything past that, like I mentioned before, it'll be gravy if they do make it. If they lose in 4 games, we'll be talking about those individual games, what went wrong, and we'll be mad in the moment and rah, rah, rah. Or if they win 1 game or 2 games in a series, we'll be thrilled. But in the end, at the end of the series, we'll say it was an amazing achievement based on this rebuild that they're even there, and we'll be thrilled about it. And that's personally, like, I'm never going to tell Red Wings fans how to feel, but that's the way I feel about it. And I think that's the best way to enjoy this.
The 2 optimistic points I take from this hypothetical potential scenario is, 1, if I never have to hear the phrase second longest playoff drought in the NHL again, that everything that happened this season was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But also, for the long-term future of this team, every flaw on this team and every roster building mistake and every overvaluation of a player has been blatantly exposed. There are no mysteries about what this team is. There are no mysteries about where everybody stands on this team. They've been so bad. Everything's been so exposed that the picture and the game plan for this offseason should be crystal clear. They can still have that with a potential playoff berth.
Yeah, and that's like you kind of get mired in like the weeds and the muck of it, but that's progress, right? Like, no one expected the first playoff Red Wings team, if that happens this season, to be a cup contender or a perfect composition. And even though, like, we talk a lot about, oh, these are the good things Yzerman has done, and here are the things that are really holding them back. Even when Yzerman came in, we would have told you, you can't expect perfection from a GM, any GM in the league. But if you can work on very clear flaws and say, this is what this team needs to do to improve, and some things are going to be tough, and some things you need luck with, like drafting or the draft lottery or signings or whatever, but you have direction, that's way better than 5 years ago. Because 5 years ago, it was, everything's bad. I don't even know where you start, and you can't even project out that far. So it seems almost depressing. So like, yeah, it is a good problem to have, to be able to identify clearly what your problems are. You wish they were fewer, but this is a great position to be in.
I'm sometimes envious of the people who just kind of like look at the standings once in a while. They're like,
God.
oh man, they might make the playoffs. That's amazing. I'll go to one of the games.
That is just...
They're like, I wonder who's really good on this team. And then they're like, oh, the Red Wings make the playoffs. You know what? Maybe I'll buy a playoff ticket. They're like, I have no idea who the New York Rangers are, but I hope I hope I have fun at the game. You know what? There's times where I'm extremely envious of their ignorance.
He just described every Pistons fan right about now in this season going, well, this one's cooked. How we doing over here?
Yeah. Yes, essentially. That's how I was for a really long time with the Tigers. It's like, oh, well, the Red Wings are out. Weather's getting nice. How do the Tigers look this season? Not great. I'm going to go to a game before they get really bad. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like,
God bless them.
Yeah. We wouldn't do this show if we didn't love it. Like, we really do love it, but it has absolutely changed the way you think about the team.
And you speak to those people and they're like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. And they're not wrong. We're sick.
Yeah.
We talk about sickos a lot on this show. We are
what's a Marco Kasper?
Brother, wait until you hear about Anton Johansson.
Yeah.
The amount of our brains is just taken up. We're definitely disordered, and we would do much better in a padded room than in this room. But I'm glad we're in this room.
Yes, me too. If I had to pick, yes.
Which I don't think necessarily the other room would be a reflection of any choices we'd make. But
no.
So until they come take us away, we'll be happy to be here with Brad, which is actually the first time I think that sentence has ever been said. So congrats on that one.
With all the sound panels, this is actually dangerously close to a padded room.
Yeah, what if this is just a fever dream and like all of a sudden you cut and it's just us like rocking back and
forth?
Well,
you've heard the phrase, I think, therefore I am. Everything beyond that is up for interpretation. You can't convince me I'm not alone in this room just yelling "Go Wings" for like on loop for all of my life.
Oh God. The orderlies are like, is he talking about buyouts again today? They're like, yeah, it's buyouts again today. Okay. Anyhow, back to it. The Red Wings on Tuesday in Detroit, they have the Washington Capitals. That is the biggest game they have had in 8 years. And then on Thursday in Pittsburgh, they have the Pittsburgh Penguins, and that will be the biggest game they've had in 8 years. On Saturday against the Toronto Maple Leafs, also on the road. Depending on how the previous two games go and what kind of BS the other teams that I mentioned earlier have done, that might be Detroit's biggest game in 8 years. And then again, they end the season with a home-and-home against Montreal, starting at the LCA and ending at the Bell Center on the 15th and 16th. And those are their last two games of the season. And those could be Detroit's two biggest games in the last 8 years. So at least the content will be consistent. Let's jump into some other news. We talked about Edvinsson and the trust in him and what he's been able to do. And they brought him up out of necessity. And not that I necessarily agree with that, but they felt it was necessary. Injury to Wallman, it just wasn't tenable playing Petry those top 4 minutes. They decided, okay, we're going to pull Edvinsson out of the Grand Rapids situation, even though they could really use him because they're on such a run hot over there. They're doing fantastic stuff. The home point streak coast has been electric still. I could go on about the Griffins. But they brought up Edvinsson. It should have been sooner. They brought him up. It's been great. We chatted about that. You mentioned something pre-show, Brad. You know, they had Austin Czarnik playing with Kane and DeBrincat. And I think that's just because, you know, they felt it wasn't working with Compher between them. They needed someone to play with a bit more pace, I guess, with the way Kane plays the game. And they don't really... They've tried Veleno up there, and they just haven't seen what they like from Veleno in those top 6 roles. So they're like, all right, we're going to try Czarnik. On the heels of that giveaway, it was a hysterical decision, but that's the thinking behind the Red Wings putting him up there. And I mentioned it's not Czarnik's fault. But does Marco Kasper at this point make more sense to try if you're going to try it?
Well, assuming the Red Wings have a recall left, there's nobody else down there that would make sense on unless something goes really sideways with the goaltending, but we're so close to the end of the season, I have a hard time believing that. Czarnik, you know, bless his heart, he's trying. He's not thriving is probably the word to not dump on a guy playing, you know, above his weight. I understand the thought process of putting him above all the other options on the second line. Didn't go well today. Kane had the nice breakaway goal, but you could tell Czarnik just, it's not there to keep up with Kane and DeBrincat. And you could say, oh, maybe his defensive acumen is the reason he's up there. Well, let's watch that Rangers game again, and you tell me. No team in their right mind is going to call up a rookie for the final 5 games of a playoff race when you're right on the line. You can't tell me Marco Kasper would do any worse in this role, though. If they want grit and pace and speed to be able to play with Kane and DeBrincat to kind of offset what they bring, Kasper fits that bill pretty well. Would he get overwhelmed given the situation, the line mates, and the role? Yeah, probably. But I don't think it's a downgrade from what they're doing right now. He's been good in Grand Rapids. He's never going to be a world beater. I don't think. I'll be surprised if Marco Kasper's ever a consistent 60, 70 plus point guy in the NHL. I don't think that's him. I don't think that natural offensive instinct is there unless he's playing that whatever role you want to call it between 2 offensive studs because he's your do-it-all. And that was the whole advertising point of Marco Kasper at 9. He was the jack of all trades. He's the 200-foot center. Put him in whatever situation you want, whenever you want. His game is super polished. Of all the guys in that draft, he may not have the highest ceiling, but he's right there, ready to go. He's damn near NHL ready. Then we saw another season in the SHL. Did nothing to dispel that. He had a rough start in Grand Rapids this year, but for the last 2-3 months, he's living up to that advertisement. So would they ever do it? No, God, no. Not in the right mind are they bringing up a rookie in this scenario. But you know what? I kind of hope they do. They won't, but I kind of want them to.
Yeah, your point of conventionally you don't do that, I agree with it. Also, you just pulled Edvinsson away from Grand Rapids. So are you really, again, going to pull away Kasper too? It's kind of a rough go for the Griffins, especially with what they've been able to achieve and with the playoffs, the playoff berth and everything. You got to be a little bit mindful of that. So those two things go against it to the point where I agree with you. It's probably not what's going to happen. But this is that unique situation where, yeah, if the current mix isn't working and you do need something different, and if they can allow it to work, you almost are curious about it. To me, it's not the same as with Edvinsson, though. Edvinsson, I was banging that drum all year to the point where Elliot Friedman made fun of me on 32 Thoughts with how much I was yelling about it. With Kasper, it's no. If anything you can draw from this, you're yeah, it sucks that they have to use Czarnik how they are or that they're making those decisions, but you can see where next season you can find a little bit of reprieve. And it also gives you a little bit more confidence of okay, so next season, Edvinson's going to be up and they're not going to say something oh, well, we already have 1 rookie, so we can't make it 2. It's probably going to be Edvinsson, Kasper, maybe 1 or 2 more if they can earn it. That's getting to be a little pipe dreamy, but
well, with Johansson almost has to be given his waiver status.
And then what if Mazur earns his way?
What if Danielson comes in and has another great camp in preseason?
I've so many thoughts on this. I think, bringing it back to the current iteration of the Red Wings and Czarnik playing up in the lineup, this is more an indictment on Copp and Compher than it is, do we bring in a rookie with 5 games left to try and force our way into the playoffs? You paid these guys good, big money to fit into the middle of your lineup and be those types of centermen, and that's not happening. It really makes me feel next year if they bring in 4 rookies, it may actually be that I'm not as bearish on this team next year if they do it. I'm feeling a little bit more confident.
Okay.
I won't have them in 7th next year based on what I'm witnessing right now. It's just, yeah. I'm not going to try and dump on anybody right now, but what we've seen from especially Copp this year.
I've liked Compher's game.
Compher, yeah. I'm not going to say Compher's had a bad year by any stretch, but you're paying those guys to play 2nd and 3rd line centermen and figure out who wants to really grab that 2C role. And the fact that we're putting Austin Czarnik there and talking about, maybe Marco Kasper should be the guy with the final 5 games remaining, that's really not good.
They had a $12 million third line today that got absolutely caved by the Buffalo Sabres. Do with that information what you will.
Okay, let's move on to some other Red Wings notes very quickly here. Alex Lyon is the Red Wings 2024 nominee for the Masterton Trophy, awarded to the player who demonstrates perseverance, sportsmanship, dedication, and more. Every team puts forward a nominee, so Lyon was the vote for the Red Wings. I wouldn't be surprised if Patrick Kane also had some votes in there too. And then Axel, Sandin, Pellikka earned some honors. He was the 2024 recipient of the Salming Trophy, awarded to the best Swedish-born defenseman in the SHL/SDHL. Credit to Ice Hockey Gifts and some others, I think LGRW prospects as well. And it's not the official best defenseman award for the SHL, but it's still more accolades for Axel, Sandin, Pellikka. So you talk about players coming down, he might be a factor in a year or two here.
One thing on the Masterton nominee, Kane to me would have been the logical choice, coming back from an injury that nobody's ever successfully come back from and doing what he's doing. But we cannot discount an aspiring dog bus driver. That is Masterton material right there.
Who was doing the hard work and grinding as an NHL goalie to one day achieve his dream of being a dog bus driver. I loved Alex Lyon when he was like, he said he had a quote, which is like, being a goalie is a job. I don't like it. I'm just really good at it.
Ain't that the truth?
If that's not Evan coded, I don't know what is.
Yep.
If that's like you with golf, except you're not good at golf. So you don't like it and you're not good at it.
Yeah.
And if you squint hard enough, Evan kind of looks like Alex Lyon.
No, he doesn't.
If you squint.
If Evan had curly hair, Evan has the same hair of that like grind set dude on Instagram Reels. He's like, all you heavy hitters, let's get after it today. That's what Evan looks like.
That's what I say in the morning to everyone at work.
You don't say a word in the morning until you have to.
That is very true.
Anyhow, let's get into some NHL news. The Rangers and the Devils.
Give me a V. Give me an I. Give me an O.
Hold on. Let's see if we can spell the whole word.
Violin? What?
The whole ice. I don't think it was meant to be all of them, based on some players just kind of floating around like, oh, I guess we're going to go to... Who was it that got little manned? Was that John Marino?
John Marino.
I feel bad for him.
And he was absolutely one of the guys not expecting to be in a line brawl.
Full line brawl to start the game, and it was because, Rempe essentially had to pay for his previous sins, and he wasn't allowed to fight in the previous game against the Devils. Full line brawl. McDermott against Rempe. I know I'm a caveman. There's going to be some of you who don't like my opinion on this.
But they're wrong.
I love
They're wrong,
I
Ryan.
loved that.
They are wrong.
Awesome.
And I know we're two male Homer Simpsons right now.
Yes.
With our pots on our head.
Yeah.
Running at each other as fast as we can to assert dominance. But they're wrong if they don't like that. I'm not apologizing. They're wrong.
That was awesome. Like it was, and you know what? It's not for nothing. Like that is a team, and that's a rivalry, I should say, with bad blood. It was immediate. It's not just because
it's not some staged thing. They actually legitimately hate each other.
Yes. Yeah. You understood why they were doing it, and they were mad about it. They were settling something. That is part of hockey, and I know some people don't like it, but yeah,
You're wrong.
I have my pot on my head too. People loved that. That is entertaining. And it made me so upset that because of the rules, 8 guys on the ice got thrown out. That sucked.
Well, I got to appeal to the nerds here. I love everything about this, but I'm going to bring up a good stat. Everybody can unite on fun stats. I generally am the type of guy who I hate like obscure stats where you have to have like 9 qualifiers to go like, oh, Nathan MacKinnon has the longest home point streak to start a season.
That's like a baseball stat.
Yeah, nobody cares. But Matt Rempe's career stat line
is
against
absurd.
the New Jersey Devils is something to behold. 3 games played against the Devils, 5 minutes and change in ice time, 3 ejections. He's never finished a game against the Devils.
He knows
Have
his
scientists
role.
gone too far? The thing is, like, the dude just he gets tuned up a lot.
Yeah.
For someone who has that much reach, and I'm not saying I would do it any better, but if I was that tall, I'd sure focus on not getting punched in the face by people shorter than me that much.
He does the Rocky Balboa defense, which is no defense.
It's like the embodiment of all the teams trying to make the playoffs in the East right now. But I do think the Rangers have to work with him. And if they're going to keep him and he's going to be a fighter, they have to get him some training because it's going to be an ugly future for him if he keeps getting punched in the face that hard. But yeah, that moment, like that game, I think maybe those teams wouldn't have put out all those players. Like certainly the Rangers weren't trying to get Trouba thrown out. They would have loved to have not lost him for the game, but that was...
Well, who else are they throwing out there then?
Well, we got to keep in mind here, the best part about this line brawl might be the two players that didn't get thrown out because they were technically the first ones to actually drop the gloves. Noted goons, Curtis Lazar and Jimmy VC.
God, yes. Those two are always at it.
And of everybody on the ice, if the coaches could have handpicked the two guys to get tossed out, it probably was them.
Before we get into it, there's actually a Red Wings point I wanted to bring up as well, which I didn't. Let's do some more NHL stuff here. So Nico Hischier, as a game was ending, there was an empty net and the buzzer had gone and he broke a golden rule, which is so you don't put the puck in the net after a whistle or the buzzer has gone. And he just glided the puck in. And the team he was playing against got really upset about it and skated after him. And there's a tiny little scrum. And it was led by their captain, you could see him saying, "Hey, what the F was that?" It was Brady Tkachuk and the Ottawa Senators. The grin on my face.
What goes around comes around, I guess.
There are two things that happened wrong in this situation.
No slap shot?
Nico Hischier did not take a slapper. And Brady Tkachuk didn't cross-check him in the head. If you're going to do something, do it full ass. Do not half-ass it. Yep. Both of them screwed up. They had to think of the content. Capital T, capital C. You got to do it because everyone wanted it to happen. But how funny, that's just, we talk about things that are scripted. That was hysterical.
The two things I appreciate, the absolute just complete lack of self-awareness from the Ottawa Senators, who are somehow giving the Arizona Coyotes a run for biggest joke organization in the NHL. I truly respect the effort. All the gong show garbage in the middle of the season where they're near the basement, they got mathematically eliminated from the playoffs that game as well. And remember, they were everybody's favorite pick to get a wild card spot this year and are never ending, I don't know what to call it. We'll call it trash campaign against Brady Tkachuk to convince everybody he's the biggest piss baby in the league. And he keeps proving us right.
He is. He looks like the kid from Arthur with a weird shaped head. Everyone keeps sending me that meme. It does look like him.
And this is their captain.
It's fun. It is. It's going to take them a long time to get rid of I think it's embedded in their DNA, but the Melnick era, you were deeply unserious people.
He still lives in the walls.
Oh, God, yeah. The stench is all over the place. It's going to take them a long time. They just fired 2 pro scouts, so they're starting to clean house, but it was funny to watch. A quick point here, elsewhere in the NHL. We talked about the Pittsburgh Penguins and how they're being wheeled back in by Sidney Crosby. You guys saw that almost goal of the year redirect through his legs at the age of 55. What a freak he is. We know who the Hart candidates are going to be. It's going to be, Kucherov. It's going to be MacKinnon. It's going to be McDavid. Some people might say Hellebuck. I would have said absolutely no way a month ago, but does Sidney Crosby get consideration here?
To me, this comes down to the literal definition voters. We talked, the last time we had the Hart conversation, it was a 3-horse race, Kucherov, MacKinnon, McDavid. In my mind, it still is. If you're this award goes to just the best player in the world, full stop. These guys are just simply the most talented players having the best seasons. That's a 2-horse race in my mind between MacKinnon and McDavid. If you're going by the literal definition, most valuable player to his team, I made the case last time for Kucherov because he's 40 points ahead of second place on his team, but there's still a bunch of stars on Tampa Bay. You still have Vasilevsky, Point, Hedman, etc. When the Penguins traded Gensel,
they sold at the deadline.
Malkin is not a bad player, but he is a far cry from the player he once was. Chris Letang, not a bad player, far cry from what he once was. I would argue Erik Karlsson's having a severely underappreciated season, but he ain't having the season he had last year. What the hell else is on that team beyond Sidney Crosby? This guy is on an island, and they were 8 or 9 points out of the playoffs on like March 27th.
If it was not Sidney Crosby doing this, I don't think we would have this conversation. But the fact that it's the golden boy, Sidney Crosby, who's dragging this team into the playoff hunt, I think there's going to be a lot of people who seriously consider him as a Hart candidate.
I have only 4 reasons why I don't think he should be a legitimate contender for the Hart Trophy, given the circumstance. And obviously he'll get consideration if the Penguins get into the playoffs. But the 4 reasons I have that kind of nullify that are as follows. The Detroit Red Wings, the New York Islanders, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Washington Capitals.
Well, if the Red Wings want to exact some revenge for 2009, Thursday this week would be a great day to do it.
Why? Nothing happened. They canceled that whole year, like around the world.
Wasn't that lockout too?
That was the gas leak year, Evan. We don't talk about that. Sidney Crosby is the meme of Darth Maul where it says, "Man is literally too angry to die." That's what he is. That's all he is. Back to some a Red Wings point. Brad, I don't ever say I'm not a good friend. You know what we're not going to talk about today?
Prospects?
The Arizona Coyotes and their arena plan.
Did you see
There's no actual update, though. That's why.
Did you see the video they put out?
Yeah.
It was like every AI-generated like Sopa condo development video I've ever seen in my life.
It's
they
Arizona,
just put them all together.
Yeah. I saw, the part that made me laugh was you saw the roof, right, of the arena, and I immediately thought, yeah, we thought the Red Wings were going to have an LED roof too. Look how that turned out.
Yeah.
A very quick point here about Mo Seider, which I don't think we mentioned. He had this game a career-high 10 block shots in the win over Buffalo, and it made him the current league leader in block shots with 205, tied him with Goulet and Tanev for the most in a game with 10. But the league leader, we talk about what Mo Seider does in terms of the defensive grind and how he has to sacrifice a ton of offense. That guy's out there fighting for his life. How much does he, do to basically keep the Red Wings alive in a lot of defensive situations? Not perfectly. He's not a perfect player yet, but yeah, that's probably an underappreciated part of his game. And he doesn't miss games. He blocks all those shots.
Oh, he's German.
He's just like a well-oiled machine. He has so much leg to hit. Oftentimes a puck will hit him and you can see him wince and he's hobbling and then he's just out there the next shift. But that guy's a warrior, man.
Is Advil looking for a spokesperson?
I'm sure it would make too much sense for him to be an Advil advocate. An Advil kit. Okay, this is getting off.
Move us along.
Yeah. All right.
Just for that pun, it's now Tylenol.
We're going to jump into overtime on this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast. I swear when the sun comes out, it's like witching hour on this show. Overtime is brought to you by our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast to support the show. It does mean the world to us. You get the bonus episodes, you get the Discord access, and you also get entered into all of our giveaways, including being entered to get 2 tickets to every Red Wings home game this season. So again, patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast. Let's take some questions from our patrons. Known Petry Truther, the Mexanadian, says, what are your ideal D pairings for next season, assuming that Hall and Petry are no longer on the team?
Brother, I got bad news for you.
No, but just do the hypothetical.
Seider Wallman has worked for very extended periods of time. I'm not going to screw with that. Wallman's been battling injury. I'm going to chalk up his ineffectiveness as of late to that. Second pairing, given the options, probably Sherratt Edvinsson. Put Sherratt on his offside and you deal with it. Third pairing, God, there's too many. They need some righties, man, because I want to say Mata Johansson.
That's 2 left.
Exactly, and you're still going to have Petry on the roster. I'd like him to be the 7th defenseman. I don't remember if Mata can play his offside because you're definitely not going to put Johansson and Edvinsson on their offside, especially as youngsters. The nice thing is Edvinsson's playing like such a vet, it might ease their mind on Johansson.
Yeah.
And would I like them to make more of a splash on defense? Sure. But given their cap situation, I would, and who's available, I would advise against it.
Hear me out. Jalen Chatfield.
Really like him. Yes.
It does mean you have to get rid. You can't be signing him unless you get rid of other people. Shoot's right.
Hull and Petry would both have to be gone. Because again, Johansson can't be in Grand Rapids again next year. Edvinsson is a Red Wing now. If you want to like rotate the scratches and like if Edvinsson or Johansson have a bad stretch, sit them in the press box for a couple games, sure.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's still a better option than being in Grand Rapids. If you could, somehow unload Petry and Chatfield gets in the mix, I would be A-okay with that.
Red Feather Desert Dog says, since the implementation of hybrid icing, I've noticed the officials are progressively giving a ton of latitude on what it means to be unable to play the puck before it crosses the goal line. I'm of the mind that this is intentional to generate more offense, but it drives me crazy to see strategic apathy rewarded. I do agree. I do think that they're going to err towards generating more offense, calling the icing, not because stoppages are good, but if you can keep a tired team in their defensive zone, it's going to create more offensive opportunities.
Also, that's erring on the side of safety, which is the point of hybrid icing. You don't want that race to get close to the goal line because that's when bad things happen. And also, that rule is tremendously misunderstood. It's not a race to the goal line. It's a judgment call by the linesman to who is going to get to the puck first. So if it's getting rimmed around the boards and it's coming out the other side and the defenseman's on the far boards and the forward is going to beat him to the goal line by 5 feet, but he's behind the puck, they're going to blow it because the defenseman is going to be first to the puck.
There's this, for anyone who's into Formula One, there's this meme that goes around, which like modern day, they have wet weather tires and they actually don't use them. Like if it's wet enough for wet weather tires, they just red flag the race. They don't race, even though they have tires meant for it. And the meme is like, 2024, rain is too wet, even though they have wet weather tires, red flag, don't run the race. Go back 30 years, it's like monsoon at Suzuka racetrack in Japan, don't die, optional. That's what it feels like with the NHL. Like it kind of seems insane, like going back that far. You're like, there used to be massive collisions into the boards.
Oh, guys were literally snapping their femurs. Like I remember, I think it was Taylor Fadoon in Dallas. It was horrifying to watch. It's a safety rule first and foremost above everything else.
I know a guy who was on track for a career. Like he was going to be drafted not high in the first round of the O, but he was probably going to be drafted the O, and he went into the boards, snapped his femur, was never the same player. Ever the same player. He was playing on my teams after that, so you knew he wasn't good.
That's true.
Beer League Defenseman says, can the NHL take a page from the PWHL and stream all their games on YouTube? It's so tiring to be excited to watch a game, then find out it's on NHL Network, TNT, or some other channel I don't have access to, or have it be blacked out. The money they could be making by making it more accessible. They could. It won't. Of all the pie in the sky, like, oh my God, did Gary Bettman have his mind taken over by a fan? These are all fan-friendly decisions. Things that could happen, that is so far down the list of what's even likely. It just won't happen that way, which is infuriating.
Best sport, worst league.
You know what? It's all the major pro sports leagues make their games hard to watch. It's the blackouts. We all thought that the advent of streaming would help things along. Like Rogers in Canada I think they have a deal in the works already done with Amazon where certain games are going to be available on Amazon Prime, but that's still behind a subscription. Although a lot of people have it, I should say. But you thought with the advent of streaming, it would make this better, but really all that's happened is it's pulled streaming back into just being effectively cable now. Yeah, anyways. Johnny Page says, if all three of you could focus on golf full time, who'd be the best player after 5 years, assuming you all start as a beginner? I guess the question is, who possesses the best combination of athleticism, temperament, work ethic, etc., to be the best out of you three long term? Oh, we're about to.
How's that even possible?
No, just assume we're a beginner.
I can't.
Oh,
my brain cannot possibly fathom that. I mean, it could be anybody. It could be any one of us.
Yeah, it really would just depend on.
If we all started at beginners, it could literally be any of us.
I will say, my biggest mistake in life was not picking up the sport sooner, because if you pick up golf after you play hockey, or if you're a baseball player, you have to train your brain to not do hockey or baseball things on your swing. And that has been my biggest vice.
Or just learn to make it work. Your friends described my golf swing as violent. It was the biggest compliment I've ever got. See,
he's an angry little man.
For me, and this is honestly one of the reasons I stopped golfing, and this would either really, really hurt me and make me the worst of us three, or really, really help me and make us the best of us three, is I'm competitive to the point where it's a sickness.
Yeah.
Like I can't, if I go out and have a bad round, my day is ruined.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mean like, oh man, I'm kind of bummed out. pissed.
I think all three of us are extremely competitive people.
I'm Brooks Koepka when Jenna Sims is talking to him about the new outfit she got, and he is 7 miles away.
So one thing that I think it makes me a bad golf partner is I always like to take my round very seriously. So like if I
Same.
duff a ball or, I mess up a stupid way, like I'm going to count that stroke. I like to focus. I like to play as best I can. And when people say like, oh, who cares? Like you're not in the tour. I'm like, I know I'm not on the tour. I still want to do as well as I can. Like,
yeah, that's a loser attitude.
Yeah. I think I don't go out there and toss my club into the woods or anything. Like I'm not swearing at other people, but I call myself a lot of names for sure under my breath.
I tell people whatever they want the round to be like, I will do it. If it's you want to play serious, we'll do that. If you just want to grab 6 beers at the halfway hut and get a little tuned up and have a good time, play some music, I'm down for that too.
Although before we get to a hockey question here, I'll tell you, I only started driving straight last year. You want to know the round where I figured something out to at least like help correct my swing?
You were absolutely buckled
at my bachelor party.
Nice.
Yeah. I could not stand straight on the
Some of the
tee-box.
greatest artists of all time have their stroke of genius under substance.
That was the only time I've ever seen you golf, and I seen you tee off exactly twice, and I picked up immediately that you are a classic overthinker.
Yeah.
So getting a few in you is definitely an advantage for you.
Yeah. You just start beta blockers. Uber in the D says, well, these are some of the more nerve-wracking times we've seen from the Red Wings for a long time. Can you believe we wished for this? Question, does Simon Edvinsson's immediate success in the NHL mean that we wasted him in the AHL too long, or is it proof that we did the right thing?
A little bit of both.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
I think it helped, but I will still make the point that they were at best 3 months too late.
Yep, I agree. Like, it's not like he rotted down there. He was still getting incrementally better, but I just think the Red Wings needed help. The Jims says, happy April in the D, boys. I know all of us are feeling the anxiety of the playoff race, but I'm starting to enjoy it more looking through the lens that we are in a version of the play-in that you guys were talking about last episode. Looking to the future or the past, what is the one question you would ask Yzerman with a guaranteed honest answer? I'm looking forward to you guys covering the Wings in the playoffs. Let's go Red Wings. I would love to, and not in a way where it's like accusatory, but it's really easy to talk about the good things, like a great trade that he made or a draft pick that really worked out. But I would love to get his thoughts on when he felt a player assigning a trade or whatever that didn't work out, when he decided it didn't work out, and how does he handle it? Like you think of long-term contracts and you think, are you mad at yourself? Do you say it has time to turn around? Do you disagree with what we say or what, common consensus might be? Like that's the kind of thing where I think that's a really interesting answer, and obviously one that you'll never get because very few GMs are going to go out and blast their players like that. There's kind of no need for it. But those would be the interesting, like what goes on in Steve's mind moments for me.
I want to know how much animosity there still is in the building towards Pavel Datsyuk and Sergei Fedorov.
Oh, that's a good one.
He obviously I don't think would be one of the guys who would hold a grudge, but he is aware of what the quote unquote company policy is on that one.
Yes,
I want to know.
Yeah, Steve, what's the percentage chance that we're ever going to see 91 on the rafters?
Yeah.
That's a good one. Okay, on that note, we are going to wrap up this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We're going to be back with you on Wednesday after, the first of Detroit's biggest games in 8 years. And then we'll see what it is from there. I don't imagine we're going to have an answer illuminated for, a little while yet, but we're going to have more of a sight as to what the Red Wings are going to do. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to Labatt Blue Light for sponsoring the Winged Wheel podcast. And thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. We can't do the show without you. To all of our listeners, new and old, thank you so much for tuning in. We really, really appreciate it. And if you want to support the show, but Patreon's not for you, there's other ways you can do it. You can support us by leaving us a rating wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify. Give us the thumbs up on YouTube and subscribe. Tell a friend about the show, but we really just appreciate you tuning in. Most of all, thank you to our name level supporters on Patreon. Arjun Shankar, Yves Bartels on behalf of the Sarah Grand Foundation, Aikfer, Samuel Soderholm, Icon, Brad's Lord and Savior Bradley Cleveland, Glenn Brabham, Croner's Left Knee, Ashley Van Conant, Keenan O'Donohue, Yanni Burgers, Meals on Wheels, Matthew M. Rice, Mo Sider's Fight Card, Admiral Matt S. of the Cheesebag Navy, Carl Brutanen Nanaluski, Carl Provi, Citizen High Five, Clip Clop Nene, Connor Scovey, Craig Kibble, Denny's Gamer Girl, Derek and Stam, Dickens, Sider, formerly Marlon Winchester, DJ Denton, God Creatives, Give Blood, Fight Probert, Have You Ever Drank Bailey's from a Shoe, Hockeytown Love, Hockeytown Matt, Hassam Al-Qassem, Jay Gollum, Jacob Turner, Joel Miranda, Jonathan Miller, Kaylin Wood, Marcus, Matt Keeler, Matt McKay, Michael Edlund, R.A., Red Feathered Desert Dogs, Ryan 50, Hannah Cap Hannah, Scott Martin, Shane Patch of Perpetual Ads, Skeletor, Scree and Lube, That's What I Appreciate About You, Wallman's Elite Dancing D, Iserplan Stan, General Andy Bohan of the Cheesebag Army, Sam Bankson, A.B., Adam Rose, Axel Sandy Pellikka, Bellingham Acid Balls, Brad Simmons, Brian Vasha, Chuck Buffchest, the Tarpless Goon, Commander Ben Barron of the Cheesebag Space Force, Connor Leighton, Corey Prida, Darren Fick, D-Boss Snipshow, Derek James, Frank Stanley, Gene Sullivan, Griffey Boy, insert clever hockey pun here, James Pridemore, Johnny Page, Jeremiah Adobo, JM Rhapsody, Yogan Rafferty Fan Club, John Evans Derogatory, John Engels, Josh Yelton, Kevin McCracken, Known Petrie Truther the Mexinadian, Quaz, Les Grossman's Ungodly Firestorm, Linda Hull, Maximilian, Michigan Boy Navs Country, Ophelia, Red Wing Tar Heel, Slavaj Zizek, is that real? Reed, did you just make me read something offensive? Steven, the Hodag, the Hat 123, Tom Iserplan Respecter, Wings fan in St. Louis, Scott, ex formerly Aaron, and your second favorite patron. Thank you all so very much. Enjoy this playoff race.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockeytown Evan.